6 weeks after the doctor told me I had breast cancer, my husband handed me divorce papers. Not flowers. Not a prayer. Not his hand holding mine through chemotherapy. Divorce papers. He looked me dead in my eyes while I was still wearing the hospital bracelet from my second chemo session and told me I was too much to handle now. 14 years of marriage. 14 years of paying his bills, funding his failed businesses, keeping his mama in my guest house, and raising his children while he built absolutely nothing. And this man had the audacity to tell me that I was too much. But here is what Raymond Carter did not know about his wife. I am a forensic accountant. I trace hidden money for a living. I find every dollar that men like him try to bury, and I dig it up with receipts, bank statements, and evidence that holds up in federal court. My husband thought he was divorcing a weak, sick woman who would be too tired to fight back. He did not know he just declared war on someone trained to find financial crimes, and baby, he committed plenty. Before I tell you how I traced every stolen dollar exposed, his mistress sent his mama packing from my property and left him with absolutely nothing. I need you to do something for me. If you have ever been betrayed by someone who promised to love you in sickness and in health, hit that subscribe button right now. Like this video if you believe that karma is real and that it always collects. And comment below telling me what city you are watching from. I need to know how far this story is going to reach because what I am about to tell you is going to make you check your man's bank account tonight. Now let me take you back to the beginning. Let me tell you about the day my whole world changed, and I do not mean the cancer diagnosis. I mean the day I found out who my husband really was. 3 months ago, I was sitting in a cold examination room at Northwestern Memorial Hospital, the kind of room where they keep the temperature low enough to make you shiver, or maybe I was shivering for another reason. Dr. Evelyn Shaw walked in holding a manila folder. She is a black woman, maybe mid-50s with kind eyes and the no-nonsense attitude you need when you are about to deliver the worst news of someone's life. Raymond was sitting next to me, and I need you to understand something about that moment. My husband was physically present, but he was already gone. His eyes were on his phone, scrolling, always scrolling. Dr. Shaw sat down across from us and opened the folder. She looked at me, not at Raymond, because she already knew who she was really talking to. She said the biopsy results confirmed what they suspected. Stage 2 breast cancer left breast. The tumor was about 2 centimeters and it had not spread to the lymph nodes yet. I heard the words, but they did not register. Cancer. Me. 38 years old. I exercise. I eat right. I go to church every Sunday. How could I have cancer? Then Dr. Shaw said something that should have given me hope. She said they caught it early. With a full course of chemotherapy surgery and follow-up radiation, my survival rate was over 90%. She said I had every reason to be optimistic. 90%. Those are good odds. Those are fighting odds. But when I turned to look at Raymond, the father of my children, the man I had built a life with for 14 years, do you know what I saw on his face? Not fear. Not concern. Not that protective look a husband gets when he realizes his wife is facing something serious. No. What I saw was calculation. His jaw tightened. His eyes narrowed. He looked like a man doing math in his head and not the kind of math that involves counting blessings. He asked Dr. Shaw one question. Just one. How long is the treatment? Not what can we do. Not how can I help her. Not what does she need from me. How long? Dr. Shaw told him about 6 months for the full treatment protocol. Chemotherapy every 3 weeks, then surgery, then recovery time. 6 months. Raymond leaned back in his chair and exhaled like she had just told him about an inconvenience. Like his wife's cancer diagnosis was a scheduling conflict. Looking back now, I understand that exhale. I understand that calculation in his eyes. He was not worried about me dying. He was worried about me living and needing care, living and needing support, living and taking his attention away from whatever or whoever had already captured it. But in that moment, I was too shocked to see clearly, too scared to analyze. I was a woman who had just been told she had cancer, and all I wanted was for my husband to hold my hand. He did not hold my hand. He did not even look at me. When we left the hospital, he dropped me off at home and said he had a meeting he could not reschedule. He kissed me on the forehead like I was a child being sent to bed early, and he drove away in the luxury SUV that I was still making payments on. I stood in the driveway of my house, the house I bought with my grandmother's inheritance, and I watched my husband's taillights disappear around the corner. I did not know it then, but he was not going to a meeting. He was going to her. The first week after my diagnosis, I kept waiting for Raymond to step up. I kept waiting for the man I married to appear the one who stood in front of God and our families and promised to love me in sickness and in health. I am still waiting. My first chemotherapy appointment was on a Thursday. I remember because I had specifically taken the day off work and cleared my entire schedule. Chemo is not something you just pop in for during your lunch break. They pump poison into your veins for hours, poison designed to kill cancer cells, but that also makes you feel like death walking. I asked Raymond the night before if he could come with me. I did not demand. I did not nag. I just asked softly, like a wife asking her husband for support during the scariest experience of her life. He told me he had meetings he could not reschedule, big investors coming in from out of town. I understood, he said. Right, I told him I understood. So my best friend Patricia drove me instead. Patricia is an oncology nurse, which means she sees cancer patients every single day. She held my hand in the waiting room. She explained every drug they were putting into my IV. She brought me ginger candies for the nausea and a soft blanket because chemo rooms are always freezing. Patricia did everything a husband should do. When the session was over and I was exhausted to the bone, she drove me home. We pulled into the driveway and Raymond's parking spot was empty. No surprise there. But when I walked inside, I found his mother Gloria sitting at my kitchen table drinking wine from my wine glasses. She did not ask how the chemo went. She did not ask how I was feeling. She looked me up and down and said I looked tired and that maybe I should fix myself up a little before Raymond got home. She said men do not want to see their wives looking sickly. I wanted to scream at her that I was sick, that I had just spent 4 hours having toxic chemicals pumped through my body to keep me alive, that maybe looking tired was reasonable under the circumstances. But I did not scream. I did not argue. I just walked past her and went to my bedroom and collapsed on my bed and cried until I fell asleep. That became my routine. Chemo every 3 weeks, Patricia by my side. Raymond nowhere to be found. Gloria criticizing everything from my cooking to my complexion. And me just trying to survive. But something else was happening too. Something I was too exhausted and too trusting to see. Raymond started changing. Small things at first. He was showering the moment he came home, something he had never done in 14 years of marriage. He bought new cologne, a scent I did not recognize and certainly did not buy for him. His phone was always face down on the table, and he had changed the password on his laptop. One night, I woke up around 2 in the morning. I reached across the bed, and Raymond was not there. I found him downstairs in the kitchen whispering into his phone. When he saw me, he ended the call immediately. He said it was a business associate in a different time zone. At 2 in the morning, he said real estate never sleeps. I told myself I was being paranoid. I told myself the chemo was affecting my thinking. I told myself that my husband, the father of my children, the man I had financially supported for over a decade, would never betray me while I was fighting for my life. I was telling myself lies because the truth was too painful to face. My daughter Kayla saw what I could not. She was 16 years old enough to understand, but young enough that I wanted to protect her from adult problems. She came to me one night, eyes red from crying, and told me she heard something. She said she was walking past the guest bathroom when she heard her father on the phone. He was talking low, but she could make out the words. He said my name. And then, at the end of the call, he said something that made my daughter's blood run cold. He said, "I love you too." I told Kayla she must have misheard. I told her that Daddy probably said that to Grandma or to his sister. I made excuses for a man who did not deserve them. But Kayla knew. She looked at me with those knowing teenage eyes and said, "Okay, Mom, whatever you say." She did not believe me. And honestly, I did not believe myself. But I was too tired to investigate, too weak from treatment, too focused on surviving cancer to realize that my marriage was already dead. The signs were everywhere. I was just too sick to see them, until the day Raymond made sure I could not miss them anymore. It was a Tuesday morning 6 weeks after my diagnosis. I remember every detail of that day because it was the day my marriage ended and my fight began. I had just finished my second round of chemotherapy the day before. My body felt like it had been through a war. Everything ached. My mouth tasted like metal. I had barely slept because the nausea kept waking me up every few hours. I was lying in bed just trying to rest when Raymond walked into the bedroom. He was dressed in a suit, full business attire at 8 in the morning, which was strange because he had told me he was working from home that week. He was holding a manila envelope, the thick kind they use for legal documents. He stood at the foot of our bed and looked at me. Not with love, not with concern. He looked at me like I was a problem he needed to solve. He said we needed to talk. I told him I was really tired from the chemo and asked if it could wait. He said no, it could not wait. Then he dropped the envelope on the bed like he was serving me papers, which I would realize seconds later was exactly what he was doing. I reached for the envelope with shaking hands. I did not know why my hands were shaking. Maybe from the chemo. Maybe from the look in his eyes. Maybe because somewhere deep inside I already knew what was coming. I opened the envelope and pulled out the papers inside. The first words I saw were "Petition for Dissolution of Marriage." I blinked. I read them again. I thought the chemo brain was making me see things that were not there. But they were there. Black ink on white paper. Plaintiff Raymond Marcus Carter. Defendant Denise Marie Carter. Grounds for divorce, irreconcilable differences. I looked up at my husband, the man I had loved for 14 years, the man whose children I had raised, whose businesses I had funded, whose mother I had housed, and I said the only words that would come out of my mouth. Raymond, I have cancer. He did not even flinch. He told me he knew, and that was the problem. He said he could not do this. He could not watch me go through treatment. He said it was too hard on him. Too hard on him. I was the one with tumors growing inside my body. I was the one vomiting into a toilet after every chemo session. I was the one watching my hair start to fall out in clumps. And he was the one having a hard time. He kept talking. He said I had changed, that I was not the woman he married anymore. He said I was always tired, always sick, always needing something from him. He said he felt like my nurse instead of my husband. I reminded him that I had only been through 2 chemo treatments. 2. Out of months of treatment still to come, and he was already done. He said he needed to be with someone who could be there for him. That stopped me cold. Someone. He said someone. Not something. Someone. I asked him who she was. He tried to deny it. He stumbled over his words and said this was not about anyone else, just about us not working anymore. But I am a forensic accountant. I am trained to detect lies. I am trained to notice when someone's story does not add up, and his story had more holes than Swiss cheese. I asked him again, "Who is she?" He would not answer. He just stood there looking down at me in my bed, wearing my hospital bracelet from yesterday's treatment, and told me what he wanted. He wanted the house. He said he had put money into it. Never mind that I bought it with my grandmother's inheritance. Never mind that I had been paying the mortgage alone for 14 years. He said it was marital property and he deserved half. He wanted half of my retirement account, the one I had been building for 20 years at my firm, the one he had never contributed a single dollar to. He wanted me to move out. For my own good, he said, so I could focus on getting better without the stress of the house. How thoughtful. He offered me alimony of $500 a month for 1 year. 1 year. After I had supported him for 14, and the final knife he wanted primary custody of our children. He said I was too sick to care for them properly. He said my illness made me an unfit mother. I felt something snap inside me. Not break. Snap. Like a rubber band stretched too far like a bone that cannot bend anymore. I told him to get out. He sighed like I was being unreasonable. He said this was exactly what he was talking about. Emotional instability. He said his lawyer would be in touch, and then he turned around and walked out of the bedroom. I heard the garage door open. I heard his car start. I heard him drive away. And I was alone. In my bed. holding divorce papers, wearing a hospital bracelet, fighting cancer, and now fighting to keep everything I had built. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw things. I wanted to run after him and demand answers, but I did not have the strength. The chemo had taken everything out of me, so I did the only thing I could do. I cried. I sobbed into my pillow until I could not breathe. I asked God what I had done to deserve this. I wondered if Raymond was right, if maybe I was too much, too sick, too broken. For about an hour, I felt completely and utterly defeated. And then something shifted. The tears dried up. The pain turned into something harder, something sharper. I looked down at the divorce papers still scattered across my bed, and I saw them differently. These were not just documents ending my marriage. These were evidence. Evidence that my husband had been planning this. Evidence that he had consulted lawyers. Evidence that he had built a case against me. And if he could build a case, so could I. I reached for my phone and called the only person I knew would pick up no matter what time it was. Patricia answered on the second ring. I told her Raymond wanted a divorce. She was silent for exactly 3 seconds. Then she said she was on her way and that I should not move, should not sign anything, and should not talk to Raymond again. Help was coming. And so was my fight. Patricia was at my door within 45 minutes. She still had her hospital scrubs on, which meant she had left in the middle of her shift. That is the kind of friend she is. She took one look at my face and pulled me into a hug so tight I almost could not breathe. But I needed that. I needed someone to hold me together because I was falling apart. She sat me down on the couch and handed me a glass of water. She made me drink it. She made me breathe. She made me tell her everything from the beginning. While I was talking, she was texting. I did not know who she was texting at the time, but I found out soon enough. An hour later, Angela Brooks walked through my front door. Angela is a corporate attorney who went through her own nightmare divorce 5 years ago. Her ex-husband tried to take everything. She fought back and won. Now she helps other women do the same. Right behind Angela came Sharon Williams. Sharon is a private investigator, former FBI, and someone I worked with years ago on a fraud case. She is the kind of woman who can find out what you had for breakfast 3 states away. Patricia had assembled my war council. We sat in my living room, 4 black women with coffee cups and legal pads and determination in our eyes. Patricia made me tell the story again from the diagnosis to the divorce papers. Angela took notes. Sharon listened with that intense focus that made you feel like she was recording everything to memory. When I finished, Angela spoke first. She asked me to hand her the divorce papers. She read through them, slowly flipping pages, making small sounds of disbelief. When she finished, she looked up at me and asked one question. "Whose name is on the deed to this house?" "Mine," I told her. "My grandmother left me money when she passed $80,000. I used every penny as a down payment, and the deed is in my name only." My grandmother insisted on that. Angela's eyes lit up. She asked about the mortgage payments. "All me," I said. "Auto pay from my account for 14 years. Raymond never contributed a dime. What about the cars? Both in my name. I got the loans because Raymond's credit was destroyed. He missed too many payments on too many things." Angela set down the papers and looked at me with something that almost looked like a smile. She said, "Denise, do you realize what you just told me? This house is yours. The cars are yours. If the deed is in your name, if you made the down payment from inherited money, if you have been the only one paying the mortgage, then legally this is not marital property. This is your property. He has no claim to it." "But we have been married 14 years, I protested. "Does that not mean something?" Angela shook her head. She explained that in Illinois, inherited money is generally considered separate property. If I kept it separate, which I did by putting only my name on the deed, then it stays mine. And if Raymond contributed nothing financially to the household, he cannot claim equitable distribution of assets he never helped build. I felt something loosen in my chest, a knot I did not even know was there. But then I remembered the bank account. I grabbed my phone and pulled up our joint account app, the one where my paycheck was deposited, the one that should have had close to $90,000 in it from my bonus and regular salary. I logged in and looked at the balance. $3,400. I stopped breathing. I scrolled back through the transaction history and saw withdrawals I never made. $15,000 here, $25,000 there. Wire transfers to accounts I did not recognize. Purchases at jewelry stores and furniture stores that had nothing to do with me. $85,000. Gone. I showed the phone to the other women. Their faces went hard. Sharon leaned forward and asked me to tell her exactly what I do for a living. I told her I am a forensic accountant. I investigate financial fraud. The three women looked at each other. Something passed between them, an understanding, a recognition. Patricia started laughing, but not because anything was funny. She said, "Girl, your husband has been stealing from you and you literally trace stolen money for a living. Does he know what you actually do?" I thought about it. Raymond always said I worked with numbers. He never really understood the specifics. He never cared enough to ask. Sharon pulled out her laptop and said we needed to start digging. But first, she had something to tell me. She said Raymond contacted her 6 months ago. He wanted to hire her to investigate me. He wanted background checks, bank record surveillance. He wanted to build a case for divorce. My heart stopped. 6 months ago. Before the diagnosis. Before I was sick. Sharon refused the job because she does not spy on spouses for divorce cases. But she kept his inquiry email just in case. He was planning this before I ever got sick, I said slowly. The cancer was not the reason. The cancer was just the excuse. Angela nodded. That is exactly right. And now we have evidence of premeditation. This was not a man overwhelmed by his wife's illness. This was a man who planned to rob you and leave you with nothing. Your diagnosis just gave him a convenient cover story. The pieces started clicking together in my head. All those red flags I had ignored. The late nights, the new cologne, the whispered phone calls, the password changes. He had been building a new life for months, with someone else, using my money. And he thought I would be too sick to notice. He thought wrong. I looked around at the three women in my living room, my sister circle, my war council. I said we have work to do. And we got to work. That night, we turned my spare bedroom into a war room. I pulled out my laptop, my printer, and every financial document I could find. Bank statements, tax returns, credit card bills. I spread them across the floor like puzzle pieces waiting to be assembled. I had been doing this kind of work for 12 years, finding hidden money, tracing fraudulent transfers, building cases that sent people to prison, but I had never expected to do it for my own marriage. The first thing I checked was the joint account transaction history going back 12 months. What I found made my blood boil. The draining had started 8 months ago. Small amounts at first. 1,000 here, 2,000 there. Amounts just under the threshold that would trigger automatic alerts. Raymond knew exactly what he was doing. He was methodical, calculated. Then I saw it. A recurring transfer of $25,000, once a month. Every month for the past 6 months, going to an external account at a different bank. I did not recognize the account. It was not one of ours. I traced the account number through the databases I have access to through work. What I found made me physically sick. The account was jointly held by Raymond Marcus Carter and Mia Thompson. Mia Thompson. I did not know the name, but I was about to learn everything about her. Sharon was already on her laptop running searches. Within 30 minutes, she had a full profile. Mia Thompson, 32 years old, real estate agent at Prestige Properties, divorced with no children, lives in a luxury condo downtown, rent $3,000 a month. Guess who has been paying that rent? Sharon pulled up the charges on one of the credit cards, the ones Raymond opened in my name. $3,000 a month going to a property management company that owned the building where Mia lived. My husband had opened credit cards in my name without my knowledge, racked up $67,000 in debt, and used that money to pay his mistress's rent. That is not just adultery. That is identity theft. That is a federal crime. But there was more. I started looking at Raymond's business accounts. For years, he told me he was building a real estate development company. I had invested in that dream. $85,000 the first time, $60,000 the second time, $40,000 the third time. $185,000 of my money poured into his vision. The company dissolved 6 months ago. Raymond told me the market was tough, that he was pivoting to consulting, that the money was gone. Bad investment. Sorry, baby. But money does not just disappear. Not in my line of work. There is always a trail. I traced the dissolution paperwork. The company's assets, what little remained according to the official documents, had been transferred to another entity, a shell company registered in Delaware called Carter Holdings, LLC. Delaware is where people register companies when they want to hide things. The ownership requirements are minimal. The privacy protections are extensive. It is the perfect place to bury money. But I know how to dig. Carter Holdings, LLC was registered 6 months ago. The managing member was listed as Gloria Carter. Gloria, his mother. The woman living rent-free in my guest house. The woman criticizing my cooking while I was fighting cancer. The woman who told me to fix myself up so Raymond would not have to look at his sick wife. She was not just his mother. She was his accomplice. I traced the money. Every dollar that had gone into Raymond's failed businesses. Every dollar that should have been lost. I found it sitting in accounts controlled by Carter Holdings, LLC. $185,000, not lost, hidden, and that was just the beginning. Sharon had been running property searches. She found 3 real estate transactions in the past 8 months. 3 houses purchased in Raymond's name only. Total value $450,000. The listing agent on every single transaction, Mia Thompson. My husband had been buying properties with my money using his girlfriend as the real estate agent so she could collect commission and putting them in his name only. He was building a real estate empire on my back while planning to leave me with nothing. I sat back in my chair and stared at the numbers on my screen. The total amount of money that Raymond had hidden, stolen, or diverted from our marriage. $85,000 drained from the joint account. $67,000 in fraudulent credit card debt. $185,000 hidden in his mother's shell company. $450,000 in hidden real estate. Almost $800,000. My husband had stolen close to $800,000 from me, from our family, from our children's futures. And he had the audacity to hand me divorce papers asking for more. Angela was reading over my shoulder. She said this was not just a divorce case. This was criminal fraud. We could pursue civil and criminal charges. Patricia looked at me with fire in her eyes. She asked what I wanted to do. I looked at the evidence spread across my floor. Every receipt, every transfer, every lie documented in black and white. I thought about Raymond sitting across from some lawyer plotting how to take everything from his cancer-stricken wife. I thought about Mia in her luxury condo wearing jewelry bought with my money. I thought about Gloria counting cash in my guest house. I thought about my children, Kayla and Marcus Jr. What would they learn if I let their father get away with this? That betrayal has no consequences, that you can steal from the people who love you and walk away rich. No, that was not the lesson I was going to teach them. I looked at my sister circle and told them exactly what I wanted. I wanted every dollar back. I wanted Raymond to lose everything he thought he was taking. I wanted his mother out of my house. I wanted his girlfriend exposed. And I wanted my children to know that their mother fought back. Angela smiled. She said she was going to file the most aggressive counter-petition this courthouse had ever seen. Sharon started packing up her surveillance equipment. She said she had photos to take and records to pull. Patricia squeezed my hand. She told me to get some rest because the fight was just beginning. They left around midnight. I sat alone in my war room surrounded by evidence of my husband's betrayal. 6 weeks ago, I was told I had cancer. Tonight, I discovered I had been married to a criminal. But here is the thing about finding out the truth. It hurts. It burns. It tears you apart. And then it sets you free. I was not the same woman who walked out of that oncology office 3 months ago. That woman was trusting, naive, willing to believe the best about people who did not deserve it. This woman was a forensic accountant with receipts and a lawyer on speed dial and a private investigator gathering evidence. Raymond thought he was going to destroy me. He just made me dangerous. The next morning, I woke up with a new kind of energy. Not the exhausted chemo-drained energy I had been living with for weeks. This was different. This was purpose. My body was still fighting cancer, but my mind was now fighting something else entirely. I called in sick to work, not because of the chemo, but because I had a full-time job to do at home, investigating my own husband. I set up my laptop at the kitchen table. I had 3 monitors running the way I do when I am working a major fraud case. Coffee on my left, legal pad on my right, and 14 years of financial records spread out in front of me like a crime scene, because that is exactly what it was. The first thing I did was pull every bank statement from the past 5 years. Joint accounts, individual accounts, savings accounts, everything. What I found confirmed what I had suspected the night before. Raymond had been systematically draining our finances for almost a year, but now I could see the full pattern. It started small, a few $100s here and there, cash withdrawals that could be explained away as pocket money, gas money, lunch money. Nothing that would raise alarms. Then the amounts increased, $1,000, $2,000, $5,000, always just under the reporting threshold, always spread out enough to avoid detection. He was good. I will give him that. He understood how banks flag suspicious activity, and he stayed just below the radar. But he was not as good as me. I traced every withdrawal to its destination, every transfer to its endpoint, every purchase to its receipt. The jewelry store charges I called the store pretending to be following up on a warranty. They confirmed the purchases. A diamond bracelet, a pair of earrings, a necklace. Total value $12,000. None of it for me. The furniture store charges I did the same thing. A bedroom set, a living room sectional, a dining table, delivered to an address downtown. Mia Thompson's address. My husband had furnished his mistress's apartment with my money while I was going through chemotherapy, while I was fighting for my life. I kept digging. The wire transfers to the external account were the biggest concern. $156,000 had been moved to the account Raymond shared with Mia. That money was supposed to be our emergency fund, our retirement cushion, our children's college savings. Gone, all of it, sitting in an account with another woman's name on it. But here is where Raymond made his biggest mistake. He thought hiding money meant the money was hidden. He did not understand that in the digital age, every transaction leaves a footprint. Every transfer has a trail. Every dollar can be traced if you know where to look. And I know where to look. I pulled the records for Carter Holdings LLC, the shell company registered in his mother's name. Delaware makes it hard to find ownership information, but not impossible, especially when you have access to the databases I have access to. The shell company had received deposits totaling $185,000 over the past 2 years. The deposits matched exactly with the money I had given Raymond for his business ventures. He told me those businesses failed. He told me the money was lost. He told me we would have to start over. He lied. The money was never lost. It was moved, laundered through a shell company controlled by his mother, then reinvested in real estate under his name only. I pulled the property records for the 3 houses Raymond had purchased. All 3 were bought in the past 8 months. All 3 were in Raymond's name exclusively. All 3 had the same listing agent, Mia Thompson. Here is how the scheme worked. Raymond would take money from our accounts money I earned and transfer it to the shell company. Gloria would then write checks from the shell company to Raymond as business consultant fees. Raymond would use that money to buy properties with Mia getting the commission as the selling agent. They were all in on it. Raymond, his mother, his girlfriend, a 3-person conspiracy to steal from me. And here is the kicker. Those 3 properties had already appreciated in value. The real estate market in our area had been climbing for years. Raymond's hidden portfolio was now worth close to $500,000. $500,000 in real estate bought with my money hidden from me while I was undergoing cancer treatment. I sat back in my chair and let that number sink in. Then I started calculating the total. Joint account drainage, $85,600. Credit card fraud in my name, $67,000. Money hidden in shell company, $185,000. Transfers to Mia's joint account, $156,000. Real estate purchased with hidden funds, $450,000. I added it up 3 times because I could not believe the number. $943,600. My husband had stolen, hidden, or diverted almost $1 million from our marriage, and he handed me divorce papers asking for half of what remained. I took a deep breath. Then I started documenting everything, every bank statement, every transfer record, every property deed, every corporate filing. I printed copies. I made digital backups. I stored files in 3 different locations. I was building a case, the same way I build cases for my clients, the same way I have built hundreds of cases over my career. Except this time the defendant was my husband, and the stakes were everything I had. By the end of the day, I had a folder 3 inches thick with evidence. I had spreadsheets tracking every dollar. I had timelines showing the pattern of theft. I had enough documentation to take to court to the police or to the federal authorities. Raymond thought he was divorcing a weak, sick woman who did not understand money. He was about to find out just how wrong he was. 2 days later, Sharon called me with her full report on Mia Thompson. I thought I was ready to hear it. I had already seen the bank transfers. I had already traced the money. I knew my husband was cheating on me. But knowing and seeing are 2 different things. Sharon came to my house with a laptop and a folder full of photographs. She sat me down at the kitchen table and told me to prepare myself. Then she opened the folder. The first photograph was of Raymond and Mia at a restaurant. Not just any restaurant. The French place downtown where Raymond took me for our 10th anniversary. The one where you have to make reservations 3 months in advance. The one where a single meal costs more than some people's car payments. They were sitting across from each other, holding hands across the table. Raymond was looking at her the way he used to look at me. Before the marriage got stale. Before the kids took all our energy. Before I got sick. She was beautiful. I hate to admit that, but she was. 32 years old, flawless skin hair that probably cost $500 a month to maintain. She was wearing a dress that I recognized from one of the credit card statements. $1,800, charged to an account in my name. My husband bought his mistress an $1,800 dress with my credit. The next photograph was worse. Raymond and Mia at a jewelry store, the same jewelry store where he bought the bracelet and earrings. In the photo, he was slipping a ring onto her finger. Not an engagement ring. At least I do not think so. But a ring nonetheless. A promise of something. A symbol of commitment. He never bought me a ring like that. In 14 years of marriage, the only jewelry Raymond ever gave me was a necklace for our 5th anniversary. It cost $200. I know because I saw the receipt. Sharon kept flipping through the photographs. Raymond and Mia at an open house, looking at properties. Her pointing at features, him nodding along. Professional and romantic all at once. Raymond and Mia at his mother's house. Gloria greeting Mia with a hug. A warm, welcoming hug. The kind of hug Gloria has never given me in 14 years. Raymond and Mia with a real estate attorney, sitting across a conference table signing documents, buying property together, building a future together. My stomach turned. I had to look away. Sharon gave me a moment. Then she told me what she had learned. Mia Thompson, 32 years old, divorced 2 years ago from a man who, according to court records, accused her of infidelity during the marriage. She denied it, but the marriage ended anyway. She started at Prestige Properties 3 years ago. That is where she met Raymond. He came in looking for investment properties. She showed him what was available, and then she showed him a lot more. Their affair started 18 months ago, before my diagnosis. Before Raymond started planning the divorce. This relationship was not something that happened because he was stressed about my cancer. This was something that had been going on for a year and a half while I was working raising our children and trusting my husband. Sharon had more. Mia's lifestyle had changed dramatically in the past year. She went from driving a 7-year-old Honda to leasing a new BMW. She went from a modest apartment in the suburbs to a luxury condo downtown. She went from shopping at Target to shopping at Nordstrom. All funded by Raymond. All funded by me, really. My paychecks, my bonuses, my inheritance. Sharon pulled up the bank records for the joint account Raymond had opened with Mia. The deposits matched the withdrawals from our account almost exactly. Raymond would take money from us on Monday, and by Wednesday it was sitting in an account with her name on it. Then came the part that really broke me. Sharon had managed to get recordings. Do not ask me how. Private investigators have their methods, and sometimes you are better off not knowing. She played me an audio clip. Raymond's voice clear as day. He was talking to Mia about their future. He said once the divorce was final, they would sell my house and use the money to buy something bigger, something with a pool, something with a view. He said his wife was too sick to fight him on it. He said she would probably just sign whatever papers he put in front of her. Then Mia asked about me. She asked if Raymond felt guilty. His answer made me want to throw up. He said he did not feel guilty at all. He said I had been dead weight for years. He said I was boring, predictable, and more interested in my career than in him. He said the cancer was almost a blessing because it gave him an excuse to leave without looking like the bad guy. A blessing. My husband called my cancer diagnosis a blessing. I sat there in my kitchen listening to my husband talk about me like I was an obstacle to be removed, like I was a problem to be solved, like 14 years of marriage and 2 children and a lifetime of sacrifice meant nothing. Mia laughed at something he said. They talked about furniture for their new place. They talked about vacations they wanted to take. They talked about how easy it was going to be once I was out of the picture. Sharon turned off the recording. She asked if I was okay. I was not okay. I was shattered. I was broken into pieces that I was not sure could ever be put back together. But I was also angry. The kind of anger that does not burn hot and fast. The kind that burns slow and steady. The kind that fuels you through what comes next. I asked Sharon if she had everything documented. She said she did. Photographs, audio recordings, bank records, property transactions, a complete timeline of the affair from beginning to present. I asked her to send copies to Angela. I wanted my lawyer to have everything. Then I thanked Sharon for her work and asked her for one more thing. I asked her to keep watching, to keep documenting, to capture everything Raymond and Mia did between now and the court date. Sharon smiled. She said she was already planning on it. After she left, I sat alone in my kitchen for a long time. I looked at the photographs spread across the table. My husband with another woman, living a double life, spending my money, planning to steal everything I had built. I thought about all the nights I worked late to earn those bonuses, all the years I invested in his failed businesses, all the times I said yes when I should have said no, all the sacrifices I made for a man who called my cancer a blessing. I gathered up the photographs and put them back in the folder. I would need them later, for court, for evidence. For the moment when Raymond realized that his sick, weak, boring wife had been watching everything. But first I had to talk to my children, because they had been watching too, and they had evidence of their own. That evening, I called Kayla and Marcus Jr. into the living room. I needed to have a conversation I had been dreading. I did not want to involve my children in this mess. They were 16 and 13. They should be worrying about school and friends and growing up, not about their parents' divorce, not about their father's betrayal. But they were already involved. They had been living in the same house as Raymond. They had seen things, heard things, and I needed to know what they knew. Kayla sat down on the couch next to me. Marcus Jr. took the chair across from us. They both looked nervous. They knew something serious was happening. I started by telling them that their father and I were getting divorced. I tried to keep my voice steady. I tried to be the strong mother they needed me to be. Kayla said she already knew. She said she had known for weeks. I asked her how. She pulled out her phone. Her hands were shaking slightly. She said there was something she needed to show me, something she had been keeping because she did not know what to do with it. Then she played the first recording. It was Raymond's voice. Clear and unmistakable. He was on the phone with someone, and from the tone of his voice that someone was Mia. He said, "As soon as she is too sick to fight, I am filing. She will not even know what hit her." My heart stopped. Those words, "as soon as she is too sick to fight." He was talking about me. He was talking about waiting for the cancer to weaken me so he could make his move. Kayla had tears running down her face. She apologized for not telling me sooner. She said she did not know what to do. She did not want to hurt me, and she did not want to get her father in trouble. I pulled her into a hug and told her she did nothing wrong. She was a child caught in an impossible situation. None of this was her fault. Then she played the second recording. This one was from about a month ago. Raymond was in the guest bathroom, probably thinking no one could hear him. But Kayla had been walking past. She heard him talking, and something made her stop and press record on her phone. His voice came through the speaker. "My mom is holding the money. It is safe. Denise is too stupid with numbers to trace it." Then a woman's voice, Mia's voice. She asked about the house. Raymond laughed. "He said I will get it. She is weak. A cancer patient cannot fight a divorce." I closed my eyes, hearing those words from my husband's mouth, hearing him call me stupid, hearing him dismiss me as weak, hearing him reduce everything I was to my diagnosis. But Kayla was not done. She had a third recording, the most recent one, from just a few days ago. Raymond's voice again bragging to Mia about his plan. "The beauty of this is everyone will feel sorry for me. Poor Raymond, his wife got sick and he had to leave. No one will know I planned this for a year. By the time she figures out what happened, I will be long gone with everything." I listened to my husband plan my destruction. I listened to him laugh about it. I listened to him congratulate himself on being clever, and he called me stupid with numbers. Kayla put her phone down. She was crying openly now. She said she was sorry over and over. Sorry that her father was doing this. Sorry that she had not told me sooner. Sorry that this was happening to our family. I held her and told her she had been incredibly brave. Those recordings were evidence, real admissible evidence of premeditation and conspiracy. She might have just saved our case. Then Marcus Jr. spoke up. He said he had something too. My 13-year-old son pulled a folder out of his backpack. Inside were receipts, handwritten notes, and a letter. He explained that he had been finding things in his father's pockets when doing laundry. Raymond always left things in his jacket pockets. Keys, receipts, notes. Marcus Jr. had been collecting them for months. He did not know why at first. He just had a feeling that something was wrong. Call it intuition. Call it a child's awareness that things were not right at home. Whatever it was, it made him save everything. I spread the contents of the folder across the coffee table. Hotel receipts from downtown hotels. Nice hotels. The kind where a room costs $400 a night. Dates going back over a year. Restaurant receipts from expensive places. Tables for two. Champagne. Dessert. Charges that never appeared on any statement I saw because Raymond must have paid cash. A jewelry store receipt for a ring. $3,000. The same ring I saw in Sharon's photographs. The one Raymond put on Mia's finger. And the letter. The letter was from Mia to Raymond, handwritten on pink stationery. I did not read the whole thing. I could not stomach it. But the parts I did read made it clear this was a serious relationship. She talked about their future together. She talked about the life they were building. She called him the love of her life. 14 years of marriage, and my husband never wrote me a letter. But he kept a letter from his mistress in his jacket pocket like a lovesick teenager. Marcus Jr. sat quietly while I looked through everything. Then he said something that broke my heart. He said, "Dad is not a good person, Mom. I have known for a while. I was just waiting for you to see it too." My 13-year-old son had been protecting me, gathering evidence, waiting for the right moment. I looked at both of my children, Kayla with her recordings, Marcus Jr. with his folder of receipts, two kids who should have been protected from all of this, but who instead had taken on the burden of documenting their father's betrayal. I made them a promise right then. I told them I was going to fight. I was going to use every piece of evidence they had gathered along with everything I had found on my own. I was going to make sure their father did not get away with what he had done, and I promised them something else. I promised them that no matter what happened with the divorce, I would always be their mother. I would always protect them. I would always put them first. Kayla asked if Dad was going to go to jail. I told her I did not know yet. That depended on what the lawyers and the courts decided. But I told her that her father had committed crimes, real crimes, and there would be consequences. Marcus Jr. asked if we were going to be okay. I looked at my son, 13 years old, trying to be strong, trying to be the man of the house when his father had abandoned that role. I told him we were going to be more than okay. We were going to be free. That night, after the kids went to bed, I sat alone in my living room and listened to Kayla's recordings again. Each word was a knife, each laugh was a wound, but each recording was also ammunition, evidence, proof that Raymond had planned this betrayal, proof that the cancer was just an excuse, proof that he had called me stupid while plotting to steal from someone who traces financial crimes for a living. I forwarded the recordings to Angela. I scanned Marcus Jr.'s receipts and sent those too. I added everything to the case file we were building. Then I went to bed. Tomorrow was going to be a long day. I had one more confrontation to handle, one more snake in my house that needed to be dealt with. Raymond's mother, Gloria, the woman who had been helping her son steal from me while living under my roof. It was time for her to answer some questions. The next morning, I walked across my backyard to the guest house where Gloria had been living for the past 5 years. 5 years of rent-free living. 5 years of me paying her utility bills, her car insurance, her cell phone. 5 years of her criticizing my cooking, my housekeeping, my parenting, while contributing nothing but complaints. And now I knew she had been helping her son rob me blind the entire time. I did not knock. It was my property. My guest house. I had every right to walk in. Gloria was sitting at the small kitchen table drinking coffee and watching a morning talk show. She looked up when I entered, annoyed at the interruption. She asked what I wanted. She said I looked terrible and should probably be resting instead of bothering her. I sat down across from her without being invited. I told her we needed to talk about Carter Holdings LLC. The color drained from her face. She tried to hide it, but I saw. That moment of recognition, that flash of fear. She knew exactly what I was talking about. She asked what I meant. She said she did not know what that was. I pulled out the documents I had printed. Corporate filings from Delaware. Bank statements showing transfers from Raymond's accounts to the shell company. Her signature on the managing member paperwork. I spread them across her kitchen table and asked her again. She looked at the papers for a long moment. Then she looked back at me with a defiance I had not expected. She said, "So what?" She said it was her son's business. She said she was just helping him manage his affairs. I asked her if managing his affairs included helping him hide $185,000 from his wife. I asked her if it included being the front for a shell company designed to steal marital assets. She shrugged. She actually shrugged. Like we were discussing the weather and not criminal conspiracy. She said Raymond deserved that money. She said he had suffered being married to me for 14 years. She said I was cold career-focused and neglectful. She said I never appreciated her son the way he deserved to be appreciated. I could not believe what I was hearing. This woman had been eating my food, living in my house, benefiting from my income for half a decade. And she sat there telling me that I was the problem. I asked her if she knew about Mia. Gloria smiled. Actually smiled. She said of course she knew. She said Mia was lovely. She said Mia appreciated Raymond. She said Mia was going to be a wonderful stepmother to my children. My children. She was already planning for Mia to replace me with my own children. Something snapped inside me. The calm, professional demeanor I had been maintaining fell away. I leaned across the table and looked Gloria directly in the eyes. I told her I was a forensic accountant. I told her I traced hidden money for a living. I told her I had found every single dollar that she and Raymond had tried to hide. Then I told her what I knew about her specifically. I knew about the shell company. I knew about the transfers. But I also knew something else. Something Sharon had discovered just the day before. I knew about the safety deposit box. Gloria's face went white. I told her I knew about the box at First National Bank. The one she opened 6 months ago, the one where she had been depositing cash. $25,000 at a time. For 6 months. I told her I knew the total. $200,000. Cash. Sitting in a safety deposit box in her name. Gloria's mouth opened and closed. She looked like a fish gasping for air. I asked her where that money came from. She stammered. She said it was her savings. Her retirement. Money she had been putting away for years. I laughed. Actually, laughed. I told her that was interesting because her Social Security deposits were the only income showing on her tax returns. I told her that $200,000 in cash did not come from Social Security checks. I told her I had traced the withdrawals. Every time I received a bonus at work, Raymond would withdraw a large sum of cash from our account within days. And within a week, Gloria would make a cash deposit at First National. She was laundering money for her son, taking my bonuses, converting them to cash, and hiding them in a safety deposit box. Gloria started crying. Not tears of remorse, tears of fear, tears of a woman who had just realized she was caught. She said I did not understand. She said Raymond told her it was his money. She said she was just helping her son protect his assets from a divorce. I told her that his assets were my assets, that money came from my paychecks, my bonuses, my career. Every dollar she was hiding was a dollar she helped steal from me. Then I told her what was going to happen next. I told her my lawyer was filing a motion to freeze all assets connected to Raymond and Carter Holdings, LLC. That included the shell company accounts, that included the real estate, and that included her safety deposit box. I told her she had 30 days to vacate my guest house. This was my property. The deed was in my name. I had every legal right to evict her. I told her that if she cooperated with the investigation, if she provided documentation and testimony about how the money laundering scheme worked, I would consider not pressing criminal charges against her personally. But if she did not cooperate, I would make sure the federal authorities knew exactly what she had been doing. Wire fraud, money laundering, tax evasion. She could spend her retirement in a federal prison instead of my guest house. Gloria was sobbing now. She called me evil. She called me a monster. She called me every name she could think of between sobs. I stood up and walked to the door. Before I left, I turned around and said one more thing. I reminded her that she had lived in my house, eaten my food, and used my money for 5 years. I reminded her that when I was diagnosed with cancer, she told me I should fix myself up so Raymond would not have to look at his sick wife. I told her that her son called my cancer a blessing because it gave him an excuse to leave. I told her that while I was going through chemotherapy, she was helping him plan how to take everything from me. I asked her who the real monster was. Then I walked out and closed the door behind me. That evening, Sharon called with one more piece of information. She had been monitoring Gloria's activity since our confrontation. Within an hour of me leaving, Gloria had called Raymond in a panic. Sharon had ears on both of them. Gloria told Raymond that I knew everything: the shell company, the property, the safety deposit box. She told him I was a forensic accountant and that I had traced every dollar. Raymond's response was exactly what I expected. He cursed. He screamed. He blamed his mother for being sloppy. He blamed Mia for pushing him to move too fast. He blamed me for being smarter than he thought I was. But he did not blame himself. Men like Raymond never blame themselves. Then he said something that Sharon made sure to record. He said they needed to move the money. He said they needed to liquidate the properties before I could freeze them. He said they needed to act fast because I was coming for everything. What Raymond did not know was that Angela had already filed the emergency motion. The freeze order was being processed as we spoke. By the time Raymond tried to move anything, it would be too late. He thought he had been playing chess while I was playing checkers. He did not realize I had been watching the board the entire time. The trap was set. The evidence was compiled. The freeze orders were in place. All that was left was the confrontation. Raymond was about to find out what happens when you underestimate your wife. I spent the next 3 days executing the plan Angela and I had developed. First, the financial moves. I went to the bank and closed the joint account Raymond had been draining. I opened a new account in my name only and had my direct deposit switched immediately. Every dollar I earned from that point forward would go into an account Raymond could not touch. I called all 3 credit bureaus and placed fraud alerts on my credit. Those credit cards Raymond had opened in my name were fraudulent, and I was not going to be responsible for a single dollar of that debt. I filed identity theft reports with each bureau and requested copies of every application submitted in my name. I froze every joint credit card we had. Raymond would not be charging another dinner, another piece of jewelry, another night in a hotel to accounts with my name on them. Then I called the mortgage company. Our house payment was set to autopay from the old joint account. I switched it to my new account. I also requested documentation of every payment made over the past 14 years. Every single one had come from my income. That documentation would be critical in court. Next, the property moves. Angela filed an emergency motion for asset protection. Within 48 hours, we had a court order freezing all accounts associated with Carter Holdings, LLC, all properties purchased by Raymond in the past 2 years, and Gloria's safety deposit box. Raymond tried to access the shell company accounts that afternoon. He was denied. He tried to list one of the properties for sale. The title company informed him there was a legal hold. He tried to withdraw money from the account he shared with Mia. The bank told him the funds were frozen pending investigation. I wish I could have seen his face. The final move was the most satisfying. I had a locksmith come to my house. My house. The one with my name on the deed. The one I bought with my grandmother's inheritance. The one I had been paying for, maintaining, and living in for 14 years. I had every lock changed. Front door, back door, garage door, side door. Every single entry point now had a new lock that Raymond did not have a key to. Some people might think that was petty. Some people might think I should have waited for the court to sort things out. Those people have never had a husband try to steal everything they own while they were fighting cancer. Raymond discovered the locks had been changed that evening. I was in my bedroom when I heard his car pull into the driveway. I heard him get out. I heard him walk to the front door. I heard his key slide into the lock, and I heard him try to turn it, once, twice, 3 times. Then I heard him start pounding on the door. He was screaming my name, demanding to be let in, calling me every name in the book. I did not answer the door. I did not respond to his screaming. I just sat in my bedroom listening to my husband realize that he no longer had access to my home. He called my phone. I did not answer. He called again, and again, and again. Finally, I picked up. His voice was shaking with rage. He demanded to know what I had done. He demanded to know why his key did not work. He demanded to be let into his house. I told him calmly that it was not his house. It was my house. My name was on the deed. My money paid the mortgage. My grandmother's inheritance made the down payment. He sputtered. He tried to argue. He said we were married and that made it marital property. I told him to check with his lawyer about that. I told him that in Illinois, inherited property kept separate from marital funds remains separate property. I told him that every single mortgage payment had come from my individual income. I told him my lawyers were confident the house would be awarded to me exclusively. Then I told him something else. I told him to check his bank accounts. I told him to check his shell company. I told him to check the properties he thought he was hiding. He went quiet. I could almost hear him pulling up apps on his phone, logging into accounts, seeing the freeze notifications. When he spoke again, his voice was different, smaller, scared. He asked what I had done. I told him I found everything. The joint account he shared with Mia, the shell company with his mother, the properties he bought with my money, the credit cards he opened in my name, the $200,000 in cash his mother was hiding. I told him I was a forensic accountant. I told him I trace hidden money for a living. I told him he had made the mistake of trying to hide money from someone whose entire career was finding hidden money. Then I told him he would be served with my counterpetition tomorrow. He would see exactly what I was asking for, and he would understand exactly how much trouble he was in. He started begging. The same man who handed me divorce papers while I was wearing a hospital bracelet. The same man who called my cancer a blessing. The same man who told his mistress I was too stupid with numbers to trace anything. He begged me to talk. He begged me to work things out. He said we could go to counseling. He said we could start over. He said he was sorry. Sorry. After everything he had done. After a year and a half of cheating. After months of stealing. After plotting to leave me with nothing while I was fighting for my life. Sorry was not going to cut it. I told him to find somewhere else to stay. I told him his mother had 30 days to vacate the guest house. I told him to prepare for the most expensive mistake of his life. Then I hung up. He stood outside for another hour, pounding on the door occasionally, calling my phone repeatedly. At one point, I heard him talking to someone probably Mia, his voice cracking with disbelief. Eventually, he left. I watched his taillights disappear down the street, and I felt something I had not felt in months. Peace. The next morning, Raymond was served with my counter petition for divorce. It was 47 pages long. Angela and I had worked on it for days, documenting every crime, every theft, every lie. We asked for the house, all vehicles, full custody of the children, restitution of all stolen funds, and spousal support. But that was not all. We also filed a criminal complaint with the local police and a report with the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit. Identity theft, wire fraud, money laundering, tax evasion. Raymond was not just losing his divorce case, he was potentially facing federal charges. Angela called me that afternoon. She said Raymond's lawyer had reached out. He wanted to negotiate. He wanted to settle quietly before things got worse. I told Angela to tell him no. There would be no quiet settlement. There would be no negotiation. Raymond had planned to destroy me. He had called me stupid. He had called my cancer a blessing. He had spent a year and a half lying, cheating, and stealing. He wanted this fight. Now he was going to get it. Court was scheduled for 2 weeks out, an emergency hearing to address the asset freeze and temporary custody arrangements. I spent those 2 weeks preparing, organizing evidence, practicing testimony, getting my children ready for what was coming. Raymond spent those 2 weeks panicking. Sharon reported that he and Mia were fighting constantly. Gloria was threatening to testify against him to save herself. His lawyer was telling him the case was unwinnable. He had built his scheme on the assumption that I would be too sick, too weak, and too stupid to fight back. He had been wrong about all three. The day before court, I got my latest lab results from Dr. Shaw. The chemo was working. My tumor markers were down. My body was responding to treatment. I was beating cancer. And tomorrow I was going to beat Raymond too. The morning of the hearing, I woke up before my alarm. I had barely slept, but I was not tired. Adrenaline had taken over. I stood in front of my closet for a long time, choosing what to wear. This might seem like a small thing, but it mattered. I needed to look professional, competent, strong. Not like a sick woman begging for mercy. Like a woman who knew her worth and was coming to collect. I chose a navy blue dress. Conservative but powerful, the kind of thing I would wear to present a case to senior partners at my firm. I put on makeup for the first time in weeks, covered the dark circles under my eyes, added color to cheeks that chemo had made pale. When I looked in the mirror, I did not see a cancer patient. I saw a forensic accountant ready to present the case of her life. Patricia picked me up at 8. Angela was meeting us at the courthouse. Sharon would be there too, ready to testify if needed. My sister circle, my army. The courthouse was downtown, a massive stone building with columns out front and security scanners inside. I had been here before for work, testifying as an expert witness in fraud cases, but this was different. This time, I was not the expert. I was the victim and the avenger. Angela met us in the lobby. She was carrying 2 boxes of documents, evidence. Everything we had gathered over the past weeks, organized and indexed and ready to present. She looked at me and asked if I was ready. I told her I had been ready for this my whole life. I just did not know it until now. We walked into the courtroom together. It was smaller than I expected. Wood paneling on the walls, hard benches for spectators. 2 tables at the front, one for each party. Raymond was already there. He looked terrible. His suit was wrinkled. His eyes were bloodshot. He had lost weight, but not in a healthy way. He looked like a man who had not slept in weeks, which was probably true. Good. Next to him sat his lawyer, a man named Peterson, who I had looked up online. Expensive, experienced in high-asset divorces, the kind of lawyer you hire when you have a lot to hide and a lot to lose. Raymond had both. He looked up when I walked in. Our eyes met for the first time since the night I changed the locks. I expected to feel something. Anger, sadness, maybe even a flicker of the love we once shared. I felt nothing. He was a stranger to me now, a stranger who had tried to destroy me. I took my seat at the other table. Angela arranged our documents. Patricia and Sharon sat in the gallery behind me. I could feel their support like a physical presence at my back. The bailiff announced to the judge. Everyone stood. Judge Patricia Coleman entered and took her seat at the bench. I had researched Judge Coleman, too. 22 years on the family court bench, known for being fair but tough. No tolerance for financial games or custody manipulation. She had a reputation for seeing through lies. Raymond was in trouble. The judge opened the proceedings. She noted that this was an emergency hearing to address asset protection, temporary custody, and the status of the divorce petition and counterpetition. She asked Raymond's lawyer to present first, since Raymond had filed the original petition. Peterson stood. He was smooth. I will give him that. He spoke about the difficulty of marriage, the challenges of illness, the legitimate concerns of a husband watching his wife struggle with a cancer diagnosis. He painted Raymond as a caring spouse who had been pushed to his breaking point. He suggested that I had become emotionally unstable due to my treatment. He implied that the children would be better served by a father who could provide consistency while their mother focused on her health. He never mentioned Mia. He never mentioned the shell company. He never mentioned the stolen money, because he knew we had all of it. When Peterson finished, the judge turned to Angela. Angela stood slowly. She was not smooth like Peterson. She was sharp, precise, every word chosen for maximum impact. She said, "Your Honor, what opposing counsel has presented is a carefully constructed fiction designed to distract from the truth." She said Raymond Carter did not file for divorce because his wife has cancer. He filed for divorce because he has been planning to leave her for over 18 months, systematically stealing her money and building a secret life with his mistress. She said my client is not emotionally unstable. She is a senior forensic accountant who discovered her husband's crimes and documented every single one. She said by the end of this hearing, the court will see that Raymond Carter is not a concerned husband. He is a thief, a liar, and a fraud who deserves nothing from this marriage except the consequences of his actions. The judge raised an eyebrow. She told Angela those were serious allegations and asked if she could back them up. Angela smiled. She said, "Your Honor, I have 47 pages of documentation, bank records, corporate filings, audio recordings, and witness testimony. I can back up every word." The judge nodded. She said, "Then let us see it." And Angela began. Angela started with the timeline. She put a chart on the screen showing 18 months of Raymond's activities, when he first contacted the private investigator about me, when he started the affair with Mia, when he opened the shell company, when he began draining our accounts, when I was diagnosed with cancer, when he filed for divorce. The timeline made one thing crystal clear. Raymond had been planning to leave me for a year and a half. The cancer diagnosis came 8 months into his scheme. It was not the cause of the divorce. It was just convenient timing. Peterson objected. He said the timeline was speculation. Angela pulled out the email Raymond had sent to Sharon, the private investigator, asking her to dig up dirt on me. The email was dated 18 months ago. She pulled out the lease agreement for Mia's apartment signed by Raymond, dated 16 months ago. She pulled out the corporate filings for Carter Holdings, LLC, dated 14 months ago. Every document had a date. Every date told a story. And the story was that Raymond had been building his escape for a year and a half while I was working raising our children and trusting my husband. The judge looked at Raymond. His face was gray. Angela moved to the financial evidence. She presented bank statements showing $85,000 drained from our joint account over 8 months. She showed the pattern of withdrawals always just under the reporting threshold, always timed to avoid detection. She presented the credit card applications with my forged signature. 3 cards, $67,000 in debt, identity theft plain and simple. She presented the corporate records for Carter Holdings, LLC. The shell company registered in Delaware with Gloria Carter as managing member. The $185,000 transferred from Raymond's failed businesses into hidden accounts. She presented property records showing 3 houses purchased by Raymond in the past 8 months. Total value $450,000, all bought with money from our marital accounts, all listed by his girlfriend Mia Thompson, all hidden from me. She presented the records from Gloria's safety deposit box, $200,000 in cash, deposits that matched withdrawals from our joint account almost to the dollar. Money laundering through Raymond's own mother. By the time Angela finished with the financial evidence, the total on the screen was staggering. $943,600. Almost $1 million stolen, hidden, or diverted from our marriage. Peterson tried to object again. He said these were marital funds and that Raymond had every right to manage them. The judge cut him off. She said that managing marital funds did not include opening credit cards in your spouse's name without permission. It did not include hiding money in shell companies. It did not include purchasing property and concealing it from your spouse. She looked directly at Raymond. She asked if he had anything to say about these financial transactions. Raymond looked at Peterson. Peterson shook his head slightly. Raymond said nothing. Angela moved to the recordings. She played Kayla's first recording. Raymond's voice filled the courtroom. As soon as she is too sick to fight, I am filing. She will not even know what hit her. The judge's face hardened. Angela played the second recording. My mom is holding the money. It is safe. Denise is too stupid with numbers to trace it. I watched Raymond's face as his own words echoed through the courtroom. He looked like he wanted to disappear. Angela played the third recording. The beauty of this is everyone will feel sorry for me. Poor Raymond, his wife got sick and he had to leave. No one will know I planned this for a year. The courtroom was silent. Even Peterson had nothing to say. Angela presented Sharon's surveillance photographs. Raymond and Mia at restaurants, jewelry stores, furniture stores. Raymond and Mia viewing properties together. Raymond and Mia at Gloria's house being welcomed like family. She presented the audio recordings Sharon had obtained. Raymond telling Mia that my cancer was a blessing because it gave him an excuse to leave. Raymond laughing about how easy it was going to be to take everything. When Angela finished presenting evidence, she had been speaking for over an hour. The judge had not interrupted once after the first few minutes. She just listened, looked at the documents, and took notes. Finally, Angela sat down. The judge turned to Peterson. She asked if he wanted to cross-examine or present counter-evidence. Peterson looked at Raymond. Raymond looked at the table. Peterson stood slowly. He said, Your Honor, we request a brief recess to confer with our client. The judge granted 15 minutes. Raymond and Peterson left the courtroom. Through the window, I could see them arguing in the hallway. Raymond's arms were waving. Peterson was shaking his head. Patricia leaned forward from the gallery and whispered that Raymond looked like he was about to throw up. Good, I said. He should. The recess ended. Raymond and Peterson returned. Peterson's face was tight. Raymond's was defeated. The judge asked if they were ready to proceed. Peterson said, Your Honor, my client would like to take the stand. The judge raised an eyebrow. She warned Peterson that his client would be subject to cross-examination. Peterson nodded. He knew, but Raymond had insisted. This was about to get interesting. Raymond walked to the witness stand like a man walking to his execution. He raised his right hand and swore to tell the truth. The irony was not lost on anyone in that courtroom. Peterson started with softball questions. How long had Raymond been married? How did he feel when I was diagnosed? What were his concerns about the children? Raymond answered carefully. He talked about being overwhelmed, about not knowing how to cope, about wanting what was best for the family during a difficult time. He never mentioned Mia. He never mentioned the money. He never mentioned the shell company, because Peterson was trying to create a narrative. Concerned husband pushed to his limit. Difficult decisions made under pressure. Mistakes, perhaps, but not crimes. Then it was Angela's turn. She stood slowly buttoning her jacket. She walked toward the witness stand with a folder in her hand. She asked Raymond when he first contacted a divorce attorney. Raymond said after my diagnosis. He said he was overwhelmed and needed advice. Angela pulled a document from her folder. She showed it to the judge, then to Raymond. It was a business card from a family law firm. On the back, in Raymond's handwriting, were notes about asset division and custody strategies. The card was dated 8 months before my diagnosis. Angela asked Raymond to explain. Raymond stammered. He said he must have been mistaken about the timeline. Angela asked if he was also mistaken about the email he sent to Sharon Williams, the private investigator, 18 months ago, asking her to investigate me. Raymond said he did not remember that email. Angela showed him the email, his name, his email address, his signature. Raymond said someone must have used his account. Angela asked if someone also used his account to sign the lease for Mia Thompson's apartment 16 months ago. Raymond did not answer. Angela asked when his relationship with Mia Thompson began. Raymond said they were just business associates. She was his real estate agent. Angela pulled out the photographs. Raymond and Mia holding hands at dinner. Raymond putting a ring on Mia's finger at a jewelry store. Raymond and Mia kissing in a parking lot. She asked if this was how he treated all his business associates. Raymond said nothing. Angela played the recording of Raymond telling Mia that I was too stupid with numbers to trace the money. She asked Raymond if he still believed his wife was too stupid with numbers. Raymond looked at me for the first time since taking the stand. I stared back at him without expression. He looked away. Angela asked about Carter Holdings, LLC. Raymond said it was his mother's company and he had no involvement. Angela presented the corporate documents showing Raymond as the sole beneficiary of the shell company. She presented bank records showing transfers from Raymond's accounts to the shell company. She presented evidence that Raymond had been making business decisions for the company for over a year. She asked if he wanted to revise his statement about having no involvement. Raymond asked to speak with his lawyer. The judge said he was under oath and needed to answer the question. Raymond said he might have had some involvement. He said he did not remember the details. Angela asked about the 3 properties purchased in his name. Raymond said they were investments. Angela asked whose money was used to purchase them. Raymond said marital funds. Angela asked if I had known about the purchases. Raymond admitted I had not. Angela asked if hiding nearly $500,000 in real estate from your spouse was standard practice in his marriage. Raymond said nothing. Angela moved to the credit cards. She asked if Raymond had opened 3 credit cards in my name. Raymond said the accounts were joint. Angela showed him the applications. She pointed to the signature line. She asked if that was my signature. Raymond said it looked like my signature. Angela presented the FBI handwriting analysis report. The expert had concluded with 97% certainty that the signatures were forgeries. She asked Raymond if he had forged his wife's signature on credit card applications. Peterson objected, saying the question was leading. The judge overruled. She told Raymond to answer. Raymond sat silently for a long moment. Then he said he signed for me sometimes when I was busy. He said I had given him permission years ago. Angela asked if I had given him permission to accumulate $67,000 in debt without my knowledge. Raymond said no. Angela asked if opening credit accounts in someone else's name without permission was identity theft. Raymond said he did not know. Angela said it was. She said it was a federal crime carrying up to 15 years in prison. Raymond's face went white. Angela had one final question. She asked Raymond if he had told his girlfriend Mia that my cancer diagnosis was a blessing because it gave him an excuse to leave. Peterson objected. He said the question was inflammatory. The judge overruled. She said she had heard the recording and wanted to hear Raymond's response. Raymond sat in the witness chair sweating through his expensive suit surrounded by evidence of his lies. He said he did not remember saying that. Angela played the recording one more time. My cancer was almost a blessing. It gave me an excuse to leave without looking like the bad guy. Raymond's voice. Raymond's words. Echoing through the courtroom. Angela asked if that refreshed his memory. Raymond started crying, actual tears running down his face. He said he was sorry. He said he had made mistakes. He said he never meant for things to go this far. Angela let him cry for a moment. Then she asked one final question. She asked if Raymond was sorry for what he did or sorry that he got caught. Raymond did not answer. Angela said she had no further questions. The judge told Raymond he could step down. He walked back to his seat like a broken man. Peterson did not even try to do redirect examination. There was nothing left to save. The judge announced that she had heard enough. She was ready to rule. Judge Coleman removed her glasses and looked at Raymond for a long moment before speaking. She said that in her 22 years on the family court bench, she had seen many cases of marital misconduct. She had seen affairs. She had seen financial deception. She had seen spouses try to hide assets. But she said she had never seen a case quite like this one. She said Raymond Carter had not merely cheated on his wife. He had not merely hidden money. He had constructed an elaborate 18-month scheme to systematically steal from his spouse, destroy her financially, and abandon her while she was fighting a life-threatening illness. She said the evidence presented was overwhelming and uncontested. The recordings, the documents, the financial trails, all of it painted a picture of calculated cruelty. She said Raymond had called his wife's cancer diagnosis a blessing. He had called her too stupid to trace his crimes. He had planned to leave her with nothing while he started a new life with his mistress. She said those were not the actions of a husband overwhelmed by difficult circumstances. Those were the actions of a predator. Then she announced her rulings. First, the property. The family home was purchased with my grandmother's inheritance with the deed in my name and every mortgage payment made from my individual income. Under Illinois law, that property was my separate asset. It was not subject to division. Raymond would have no claim to the house. None. Second, the hidden assets. All funds held in Carter Holdings LLC, all properties purchased by Raymond during the marriage, all money transferred to joint accounts with Mia Thompson, and all cash held in Gloria Carter's safety deposit box were hereby frozen and would be returned to me as the injured party. The judge calculated the total. $943,600. Every penny would be restored to my accounts. Third, the vehicles. Both cars were in my name and purchased with my credit. They would remain my property. Fourth, the fraudulent debt. The $67,000 in credit card debt that Raymond had accumulated by forging my signature was his sole responsibility. I would not pay a single dollar of it. Fifth, custody. Based on the evidence of Raymond's character, his deception, and his willingness to prioritize his affair over his children's welfare, I was granted full legal and physical custody of both Kayla and Marcus Jr. Raymond would receive supervised visitation only every other weekend at a professional facility. The judge said she could not in good conscience grant unsupervised access to a man who had demonstrated such profound dishonesty. Sixth, child support. Raymond was ordered to pay $2,000 per month in child support until Marcus Jr. turned 18. Given that Kayla would be 18 within 2 years, her support would continue until she finished high school. Seventh, spousal support. Given the length of the marriage, the disparity in actual earnings, and Raymond's deliberate financial sabotage, he was ordered to pay me $4,000 per month for 10 years, $48,000 per year for a decade, $480,000 total. Eighth, medical expenses. Raymond was ordered to maintain health insurance coverage for me and the children. Additionally, he was responsible for all out-of-pocket medical expenses related to my cancer treatment, both current and future. The judge noted that Raymond had abandoned his wife during her fight against cancer. The least he could do was pay for her treatment. Ninth, punitive damages. Given the intentional infliction of emotional distress, the pattern of fraud, and the calculated nature of Raymond's scheme, the judge awarded me $100,000 in punitive damages. This was not about compensation. This was about punishment. Raymond needed to understand that his actions had consequences. 10th and finally, criminal referral. The judge said she was deeply troubled by the evidence of identity theft and financial fraud. She was referring the case to the state's attorney's office and the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit for investigation. Raymond could face criminal charges, federal charges, the kind of charges that came with prison sentences. The judge looked at Raymond one final time. She said she hoped he understood that what he had done was not clever. It was not strategic. It was cruel and criminal, and he was going to spend years paying for it. Then she banged her gavel. Court was adjourned. I sat at my table trying to process what had just happened. Angela was organizing her papers. Behind me, Patricia and Sharon were hugging each other. We had won. We had won everything. Raymond sat at his table, his head in his hands. Peterson was gathering his things quickly, clearly, wanting to distance himself from his client. In the gallery, I spotted Mia Thompson. She had snuck in at some point to watch. When the ruling came down, she got up and walked out without looking at Raymond. His girlfriend was already leaving. The money was gone. The properties were frozen. The house was mine. The children were mine. Raymond had nothing left. I stood up and walked out of the courtroom. I did not look at Raymond as I passed. He was not worth my attention anymore. In the hallway, my sister circle surrounded me. Patricia was crying. Sharon was grinning. Angela was already on her phone, probably talking to her office about the case. Mama Ruth was there too. She had driven down from her place to be at the courthouse, even though she had not been in the courtroom. She wrapped me in a hug that smelled like lavender and home cooking. She said she was proud of me. She said my grandmother would have been proud of me too. I thought about my grandmother, the woman who left me the inheritance that bought my house. The woman who insisted the deed be in my name only. The woman who told me years ago that a woman should always have something that belongs only to her. She had been right. She had saved me without even knowing it. We walked out of the courthouse together, my mother and my friends and my lawyer. The sun was shining. The air was cold but clean. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. Raymond was finished. The battle was over. But my life was just beginning again. The weeks after the court ruling were a blur of paperwork and changes. Angela worked with the court to enforce every part of the judgment. The frozen accounts were released to me. The properties Raymond had hidden were transferred into my name. Gloria's safety deposit box was emptied and the cash deposited into my account. $943,600 returned to where it belonged. I used some of it to pay off the remainder of my mortgage. My house was now completely mine, free and clear. No bank had a claim to it. No ex-husband could touch it. Raymond moved into a small apartment on the other side of town. Not the luxury condo he had planned to share with Mia. A one-bedroom unit in a building that had seen better days. It was all he could afford after the judgment took everything. Mia left him within days of the court ruling. When the money disappeared, so did she. She blocked his number, changed her locks, and started dating a new client within the month. Raymond had been nothing but a meal ticket to her. Gloria was evicted from my guest house exactly 30 days after I gave her notice. She moved in with her daughter Tiffany, who was not happy about the arrangement. Last I heard, they were fighting constantly. Gloria blamed everyone except herself and her son for what had happened. The federal investigation moved quickly. Raymond and Gloria were both interviewed by FBI agents. The identity theft charges were straightforward. Raymond had forged my signature on credit applications. That was a federal crime. 6 months after the court ruling, Raymond pleaded guilty to identity theft and wire fraud. His lawyer negotiated a deal. 18 months in federal prison followed by 3 years of supervised release. He went to prison on a Tuesday. Kayla and Marcus Jr. did not visit him. They did not write. They had seen who their father really was, and they wanted nothing to do with him. Gloria was charged as an accessory. She pleaded guilty to money laundering and received 2 years of probation plus community service. Her safety deposit box scheme had been amateurish, and the FBI had traced every deposit back to my accounts. She was 70 years old doing community service at a highway cleanup crew because she helped her son steal from his cancer-stricken wife. I felt no sympathy. But the best part of the aftermath was not what happened to Raymond and Gloria. It was what happened to me. My cancer treatment continued throughout all of this. Chemo every 3 weeks, doctor appointments, blood tests, scans. The fight against the disease inside my body never stopped. But something changed. I was not fighting alone anymore. I was not carrying the weight of a marriage, a cheating husband, and financial destruction on my shoulders. The stress that had been killing me was gone, and my body responded. 4 months after the court ruling, my scans came back clean. The tumor had shrunk dramatically. Dr. Shaw said my numbers were excellent. She said whatever I was doing, I should keep doing it. I was doing one thing differently. I was putting myself first. I had surgery 2 months later. The procedure went perfectly. They removed what remained of the cancer and did reconstruction at the same time. When I woke up from surgery, Patricia was there, Angela was there, Sharon was there, Mama Ruth was there, my children were there. My sister circle surrounded my hospital bed, and I knew I was going to be okay. 3 months of recovery followed. I went back to work part-time at first, then full-time. My colleagues welcomed me back like a hero. Word had spread about what I had done. The forensic accountant who had caught her own husband stealing. The woman who had turned her professional skills on her personal life. Some people called me ruthless. Some people called me cold. I called myself a survivor. The children adjusted better than I expected. Kayla threw herself into her studies. She was accepted to Howard University with a partial scholarship, and I could afford to pay the rest now. She wanted to study pre-law. She said watching Angela in court had inspired her. Marcus Jr. became the man of the house. Not in the toxic way that phrase is usually meant. He helped around the house. He checked on me when I was tired. He made sure his sister was okay. He was 13 years old and already more of a man than his father had ever been. My house became a home again. I repainted every room in colors I chose. I bought new furniture that I liked. I hung pictures of me and my children, no more photographs of Raymond anywhere. I started a garden in the backyard, something I had always wanted but never had time for when I was supporting an entire family by myself. Now I had time. I had peace. I had space to grow. Just like my garden, I was coming back to life. 1 year after my diagnosis, I stood on my back porch watching the sunset. The garden was in full bloom, tomatoes and peppers and flowers in every color. I had built this with my own hands during the months of recovery. Every plant was a victory. My hair had grown back. Different than before, curlier and with a few gray strands I had decided to keep. It was mine. It was real. It was beautiful. My latest scans were completely clear. No evidence of disease. Dr. Shaw said I was in remission. She said if things continued this way, I could consider myself cured. Cured. A word I never thought I would hear. The sliding door opened behind me. Kayla and Marcus Jr. came out onto the porch with glasses of sweet tea. We sat together in the chairs I had bought to replace the ones Raymond had picked out years ago. We talked about school, about friends, about the trip to Paris I was planning for the three of us next summer. A trip I could afford now, a trip I had time for now. My children were healing too. Therapy had helped, time had helped, but mostly watching their mother fight back had helped. They knew now that you did not have to accept abuse. You did not have to stay quiet. You did not have to let someone destroy you. I had taught them that by example. It was the most important lesson I had ever given them. Inside, my phone buzzed. A text from Patricia about Sunday brunch with the sister circle, a tradition we had started after everything settled down. First Sunday of every month, the four of us would gather at someone's house and spend hours eating, laughing, and being grateful. I texted back that I would bring my sweet potato pie. It was my grandmother's recipe, another thing she had given me along with the inheritance that saved my life. Later that evening, after the kids went to bed, I sat in my living room with a cup of tea and thought about everything that had happened. A year ago, I was a woman being crushed by cancer and betrayal. I thought I was going to lose everything, my health, my home, my children, my life. Instead, I found everything. I found my strength, the strength that had always been there but that I had been using to prop up everyone else. Now I used it for myself. I found my voice, the voice that spoke up in that courtroom that demanded justice, that refused to be silenced. I found my worth, the worth that Raymond had tried to diminish for years with his criticism and his neglect and his betrayal. I found out who I really was. Raymond is still in prison. He has 4 months left on his sentence. I do not think about him often anymore. When I do, I feel nothing. Not anger, not satisfaction, just nothing. He made his choices. He is living with the consequences. That is not my concern anymore. Gloria is still doing community service. She blames me for everything. She tells anyone who will listen that I destroyed her family. She does not mention the stealing, the lying, or the conspiracy. In her mind, I am the villain. I am okay with that. Some people will never see the truth. That is their loss. Mia is on her 3rd relationship since Raymond. She found another married man, another scheme. Some people never learn either. But I learned. I learned so much. I learned that you cannot pour from an empty cup. For years, I gave everything to everyone else and kept nothing for myself. That almost killed me. Never again. I learned that your partner should be your partner. Not your dependent, not your critic, not your enemy. Someone who builds you up, not tears you down. I learned that being strong does not mean suffering in silence. It means knowing when to fight and having the courage to do it. And I learned that cancer was not the worst thing that happened to me that year. The worst thing was discovering who my husband really was. But even that became a gift. It set me free. If you are listening to this story right now, I want you to hear something. If you are sick, do not give up. Fight. Your body is stronger than you know. If you are being betrayed, do not look away. Investigate, document, prepare, then act. If you are being told you are not enough, do not believe it. You are enough. You have always been enough. The people who tell you otherwise are the ones who are not enough. If you are trapped in a marriage that is killing you, get out. I know it is hard. I know it is scary. I know you think you cannot do it alone. But you can. There is help. There are people who will stand with you. There is a life on the other side that you cannot even imagine yet. I could not imagine this life a year ago. Sitting on my porch, cancer-free, financially secure, surrounded by people who love me. But here I am. My name is Denise Carter. I am 39 years old. I am a forensic accountant, a cancer survivor, a mother, and a woman who took back everything her husband tried to steal. Raymond gave me divorce papers when I was fighting for my life. I gave him nothing. He is in prison with nothing. I am home with everything. That is not revenge. That is justice. And if I can find justice, so can you. Take care of yourself. Document everything. Trust your instincts. And remember, you are worth fighting for. I am Denise Carter, and this is my story.